Jerry Harley here at Williams Fire Apparatus. We're going through some abnormally cold temperatures in the teens or lower single digits. Wind chill feels a lot less. So a couple things to remember about your fire truck in these extremely cold weather. We operate in the South. A lot of times these are things we don't have to think about, things we don't deal with, like some of the northern regions. Just a few pointers and things you want to keep in mind. Number one, if your unit has a hydraulic generator, Smart Power Harrison, one of those where it uses a PTO to drive a hydraulic pump that moves your generator to generate power on the area or whatever. Those generators operate requiring the fluid to be between 35 and 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's very possible that from the time you leave the station bay at 50 degrees en route to your call, the temperature of that fluid could drop. So we recommend turning that PTO on before you leave the station. Make sure your truck is configured to drive down the road with the PTO engaged. Most hydraulic generators do come that way. But again, engage the generator, the PTO before you leave the station. That fluid will be nice and warm by the time you get there, just in case you need your generator. Another thing regarding the pump, it's very common up north in these frigid temperatures to run with the pump dry. Scenario is several units on scene. If it's not the primary unit pumping the fire and the other trucks were just used to transport the crew there, that truck's just sitting there idle, not using the pump. You can either run with the pump completely dry, drain valves open, or you can circulate water through your pump. Just remember, you got to flow 35 to 55 gallons a minute to keep your pump cool. So just keep that in mind for apparatus sitting on scenes for extended time that you don't want to freeze. Also, something to remember, if on your reserve apparatus or unit's not being used where you're leaving the pump dry, you want to make sure your tank to pump is completely closed. If there's water in the tank, again, if the unit's out of service and it's sitting outside, you want to make sure everything's completely drained. The way to properly do that is you don't want to leave the valve all the way open or all the way closed. That still allows water to be trapped behind the ball of that valve and it'll freeze and bust. Always make sure all discharges are halfway open. That allows that ball to sit halfway in there and water to escape out of both sides. One that's commonly forgotten is your hand wheel discharges and your electric discharges here. Again, make sure all these are in the halfway position. It's very common on older Sutphen aerials. The master gauges that are located on these front walls have individual drains that's not typically plumbed to the master drain. Again, I'm speaking only on older aerial apparatus. One thing that you can do is use your auxiliary motor to run your left side outrigger out. There will be a drain valve, a quarter turn on the back of these gauges. That's another thing that you want to make sure is drained properly. So, one more thing I want to mention regarding your pump and pressure governors. All pressure governors, whether FRC or Class 1, has a pressure mode or an RPM mode. That pressure mode reads off of a pressure transducer that potentially could freeze. If you are pumping and you do have some issues with your pressure doing some weird things and it is this cold, you can always switch to RPM mode and pay close attention to your pump panel. At that point in RPM mode, you've taken pressure out of the equation as far as your pressure governor, and you're going to have to pump the truck watching all your pressures on your hand lines. So any questions, give us a message on or contact our customer service team, and stay warm out there and be safe. Thank you.